the conference organizers asked me to speak a little bit about the religion and ecology work. But I would like to say, I think we are all deeply moved, certainly by this film, and certainly by the day that we have witnessed here in New Orleans with those who have suffered from the consequences, and especially the racial consequences of Katrina. And I would like to say that the movement that many of us have been part of is creating a sensibility of ecology and justice coming together. And that has been very much the work of this Forum on Religion and Ecology, which, as I say, the conference organizers wanted us to share with you. I feel we have been through a great deal, and so I don't want to take too much time here because there's a lot to process. But I do feel, in a very profound way, that the environmental movement picks up the sensibilities of Martin Luther King for a new liberation, a liberation of the earth, of land, and people. And what we have tried to do with many, many scholars and environmentalists, we brought them together, over 800 people at Harvard, to examine the world's religions for their values regarding nature, justice, and peace, these same kinds of values that Martin Luther King held very dear. And over that 3-year period of a conference series, we were able to identify through a book publication process what these values are, that these great traditions, these wisdom traditions hold for the promise of the future. As we begin to retrieve that wisdom, we re-examine it for the present circumstances and reconstruct these traditions, just as we've talked about stewardship rather than dominion. This is one example of what's happening in all the world's religions. And I think it's a source of immense hope. We could share with you, and at another time we will, it's not only the theologies that are changing, but it's the engaged work on the ground. We call them engaged projects. And there's a film now called Renewal, which gives 8 case studies here in the US of these engaged projects, including one on Katrina, of what the religious community is doing to respond to this in a way that brings forward ecology and justice. There's also a very powerful section in this film on mountaintop removal, which was mentioned this afternoon by the general, removing the tops of some of the oldest mountains in the world, which has direct implications for climate change and justice throughout the Appalachian region. It is truly one of the most horrific things that you would want to see, what is happening in that region. And these films illustrate that. So at Yale, what we've tried to do is bring together those people who are working on the ground, like the people from Katrina and the people from Appalachia, with the scholars, the theologians, who are retrieving these traditions for a new sensibility, a new set of values that we were speaking about and that Fred asked his wonderful last question this afternoon. What are the values that will sustain life on the planet? And what are the well springs of wisdom that His Holiness has brought forward from the Orthodox tradition, and now we are trying to encourage from all the world's religions? And I can say this is not just a pie in the sky, but last summer we met with the Vice Minister for the Environment in China, and I think I mentioned yesterday, they are translating all of these 10 volumes into Chinese. The Chinese minister is deeply concerned to use the values of Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism for the transformation of China, the same in India as well. So let me just conclude by saying there are resources. We are happy to share these resources, the books. There's a website which has statements of all the world's religions, including His Holiness's statements, references to this symposium, and so on. But we now have a collection of statements from almost all the world's religions. I don't think we're missing any. And in fact, more recently, we've collected the statements on climate change from the various world religions, which are very powerful, and I think will add to the discussion, just as Bob Carell and some of these terrific scientists are trying to find the way to bridge this gap. This project from the very beginning has had a shared sensibility that science, economics and policy are the key dialogue partners with religion and values. In other words, religion is late, but it's necessary, although it's not sufficient, and that's the brilliance of this symposium. So, as I have suggested, there's a lot of work that we are doing which we would love to share with you at a future time, but we will be doing continuing conferences at Yale. One in the spring will be on climate change and environmental justice, and we're bringing key leaders from all over the country to examine this and to continue this work of the forum. Just a final point that maybe some of your children will be interested too, but the wonderful sensibilities that are shifting, I think, for science to invite at Yale into the oldest environmental school in the country, the School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, has invited this project into the heart of a science and policy-based university school in dialogue with the Divinity School and Religious Studies, so that we now have a master's program in religion and ecology, which is really growing rapidly. And I would love to conclude by thanking one of the key people here. We've been deeply inspired by Thomas Berry, who we mentioned yesterday, with the film and the sense that we're part of a vast evolving universe. And just recently, we celebrated Thomas Berry's memorial at 94 years old in New York. 1,000 people came. It was a remarkable moment. And we gave the Thomas Berry Award to the person who has helped us more than anyone to do this work, and that is Martin Kaplan, who's here with his wife, Wendy, as well. And I just would like to conclude that we are deeply grateful to our supporters, Martin and Wendy Kaplan, and we are especially grateful for His Holiness, for your work which inspires us daily and for which we refer to very often in our work, in our speeches, and we're sharing that with our students. So thank you all, and thank you for this remarkable day to all of the organizers who have helped us to understand Katrina and its effects, and to this splendid panel. Thank you so much.